What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another installment into the extraordinary life of Emon. I am your host, and today I got something a little bit different for you guys. I wanted to do a different type of video, so I decided to do one of these. Today we're going to go ahead and explore about 5 myths associated with law enforcement and see if we can get them debunked. But before we jump into that, please do me that favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Number 1, law enforcement is just like it is in the movies. Okay, so I enjoy a great cop movie just like the next person, but it's just not the case. Like, they do so many things that are not true, and it just doesn't happen like that. In law enforcement, you will not be doing half of what they be doing. You will not be getting into foot chases all the time, breaking down doors all the time, shooting your gun a lot. No, that is not gonna happen. You will not get into multiple shootings in a day and just shoot like 6 or 7 criminals and bad guys and just go about your day like nothing's happening. Majority of the job is paperwork, court, dealing with people, dealing with calls for service. Even if you're in a specialty like a detective or SWAT, you will not be doing those things every day. Now, you're going to be trained to do a lot of the stuff that you see in the movies, but you're just not going to do that every day. It's just not realistic. It's just not going to happen. It is completely false that law enforcement is actually like the movies. Even in some of the worst places, it's just not. Let's just go ahead and hit the big one. In reference to getting into shootings, you are actually going to be sent home for approximately a month. They're going to take your gun, they're going to take your badge, they're going to take everything away from you, and they're going to investigate you for murder. And then once they clear you of that, you still got to go to a shrink for a year. You're still probably going to be on desk duty for a little while. The agency doesn't want to put you in a situation to where you have to do it all again, because it just paints them in a bad light, basically. So this is something that most officers do not want to experience. Nevertheless, if you come to a point where you have to, then that's just going to be what it is. You're going to have to make moves and you're going to have to do what you got to do. It is not something that law enforcement officers want to go through. It is not a pleasant thing, even though it's portrayed as so in the movies. Number 2, law enforcement is glamorous and anyone can do it. Law enforcement is a career that is not like any other in the world. You are the only entity that is authorized to take people's freedoms away. Every single day is stressful because people hate you for no reason, dangerous because people will hurt you for no reason, and every single thing that you do is going to be scrutinized, and every day is going to be different. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be hyper vigilant the entire time, and not everybody can do that. You know, getting through the academy is one thing, but hitting the street and actually doing your job is a totally different animal, because in the academy, when you're going through the learning process, it's black or white. That's just what it is. But once you hit the street and apply the law, deal with a lot of these situations, it can be very, very stressful. You see a lot of officers out there who are alcoholics, who unfortunately have failed marriages, failed family life, stressed out, etc. It's because of the stress associated with the job. Additionally, it's not always just about getting the job. You have to keep the job, maintain the job, and get to retirement. Retention is crazy. Imagine doing a job like that where you have to deal with the 1% that no one else wants to deal with on a daily basis for 25 to 30 years. It is not for everybody. Switching gears, let me address the glamorous part about it. A lot of law enforcement isn't glamorous. You're going to be on camera, you're going to be scrutinized in court, everyone's going to question what you did, why did you do this, what training do you have, etc., etc. Constantly, you're going to have to explain yourself all the time. It is not glamorous, and a lot of people want you to be Joe friendly but don't want you to actually act when it's time to act. But unfortunately, you have to rise above that. You have to be better than that and still act in the law and put a stop to it. You have the public trust and you shall act. That is your job. Not everybody can deal with that, so it's not something for everybody, and it is definitely not as glamorous as the movies and the media and everyone makes it out to be. It's just not the case. Number 3, law enforcement officers love to give out tickets. I actually really enjoy this one. It's true and not true at the same time, because if you're in a specialized group, aka a traffic unit or a motor unit, or you're a state trooper, and you guys out there know state troopers don't play, because they will give a ticket to their own mother. That's just how it's gonna go. If you're a motorman, aka the guys on the motorcycles, or you're a traffic unit designated to only deal with traffic violations, that is your job. So you should love giving tickets. tickets because that's your position. That's what you do. However, normal patrol, detectives, anything like that, no, we do not care. We do not work for the DMV. We don't care. As long as you're not driving recklessly, hurting anybody, it doesn't make me any difference. Now, for me personally, I have what's called open door policy. If you do something wild on that roadway and I have to stop you, yes, as soon as I open my door to make contact with you, yeah, you're gonna get the ticket majority of the time. Pro tip for anybody out there, I'm gonna give you guys a secret right now. If it's raining, more than likely, you will not get a ticket. But if you do get stopped by an officer and it's raining, yeah, guaranteed you're getting a ticket. Another thing associated with this myth, every ticket that we have to go to court for. Normally, court is on a day off. That is not something that we want to do. We value our time off. We want to spend time with our families. We want to do our hobbies. We want to be outside of that uniform. I don't want to give you a ticket because that means I got to go to traffic court. So like I said, when it comes to this myth, it's actually kind of both. Yes and no. Moving on. Number 4, law enforcement officials are immune from the law. This one is actually big because it's actually been in the news recently because we have what's called qualified immunity. Basically, in a nutshell, this actually allows us to act without fear of being prosecuted, because if we're acting in our capacity, we may have to violate laws, we may have to violate people's rights, but it's in our official capacity, all associated with our law enforcement duties. Now, that being the case, we are not immune from the law. If we do something out of the scope, we will be held accountable. As you can see right now in the news, the media, when it comes to that, we are held to a higher standard regarding following the law. Additionally, now that we're in the age of technology, there's cameras everywhere, everyone's recording, everyone is a specialist when it comes to their rights. All of a sudden, we are not immune from the law. And in fact, I'd even go ahead and say nowadays, we better be on our P's and Q's and know the law, because now it's constantly being tested. Numerous times at the job, people pull out their camera and ask me different questions about the law. I gotta be ready to answer. I gotta be ready to go, or they're gonna do something or act or report or try to get a lawsuit going. Everybody want their $2 million, and I'm not down for that. I'm not gonna be the guy that's gonna cost my agency $2 million. That's not gonna happen. We are not immune from the law, and we're not immune from prosecution. Okay, finally, number 5, law enforcement can do whatever they want. This is so far from the truth. This is totally false. This is not the case whatsoever. Law enforcement, in fact, have to follow strict rules and regulations. Let me break it down. Not only do you have the law that you have to follow, you also have your agency policy and or standing orders, SOP, GOs, whatever you want to call them. You still have to follow every single one of those. In addition to that, you also have to take into account, whenever you take an action, how it's actually going to make your department look, because nowadays it is possible to be totally in the right, totally doing your job, and still lose your job based off the publicity associated with said actions. Law enforcement is not glamorous, and sometimes it looks bad. That's just the way it is. And it is possible to actually come to a point to where you do everything right and you still lose your position, lose your livelihood, and still have to answer for things even though you did everything right. You know, policing was actually a lot different back in the day. Not as many laws on the books, so you can actually get away with a lot more. But nowadays, no, that is not the case. Law enforcement cannot do what they want. And outside of qualified immunity, like I said in the previous one, we are not immune from the law. Like, we can be convicted of criminal actions and we can go to jail. Law enforcement is being held to higher standards, and some of us literally are going to jail. If it was possible that law enforcement could do whatever we want, we would literally be judge, jury, and executioner. There would be no crime. There would be no issues, because everyone would basically be in captivity. On a daily basis, majority of normal citizens don't know the law and break the law. And guess what? If there was no give to that, law enforcement officials would just take everyone to jail. There would be no reason for the courts. Everyone would be under an iron fist. It's a reason we have the courts. It's a reason we have jail. They all kind of check each other. You actually need all of them in order for the law enforcement paradigm to actually work. So in closing, it is not the case. Law enforcement officials cannot do what they want. In fact, we are held to a higher standard than a normal citizen would be. But that's it for this one. If you can, do me the favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a wonderful comment down below. This has been another installment into the extraordinary life of Emon. I've been your host, and I'll definitely see you on the next one.